Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're jumping into a perspective on health that might just challenge everything you've ever been taught about getting sick. We're going to unpack a really different way of looking at illness, drawn from the work of Barbara O'Neill.
All right, let's get right into it. We're usually told a pretty simple story about sickness. A germ gets in, our body fights back, and that's that. But what if that's not the whole story? What if the real drama is happening inside of us all the time? And that brings us to the big question, right? Are germs actually the bad guys? The perspective we're looking at today suggests the answer isn't so simple. It proposes that these microorganisms, bacteria, fungi, they aren't always invaders. A lot of the time, they're just responding to the environment they find inside our own bodies.
This quote right here, it gets to the very heart of this philosophy. It's this idea of self-heal by design. The core concept is that our bodies are hardwired to be healthy. So from this viewpoint, getting sick isn't a sign that your body failed. It's a sign that the conditions for health have been disrupted somehow.
Now, to really wrap our heads around this idea, we've got to zoom out for a second and look at a huge fundamental process in nature. The natural world gives us a really powerful blueprint for what might be going on inside us. So this is where it gets really interesting. There's this concept called pleomorphism. Now, this theory basically says that microbes aren't just one thing. They're like little shapeshifters, able to change their form and even their job depending on the terrain, or, the internal environment that they're living in.
Think of it like this. Out in a forest, microbes aren't villains, they are the planet's essential cleanup crew. Their job is to break down dead and decaying stuff, clearing the way for new life to grow. It's a totally vital, totally healthy process.
So let's just walk through this cycle. Step 1, things are alive. Everything's great. Step 2, eventually they die. Step 3, that's when the microbial cleanup crew comes in and gets to work, decomposing all that matter. And step 4, that whole process returns nutrients to the soil so new life can start all over again. See? Microbes are a crucial part of the whole system.
Okay, so if that's their job out in nature, what happens when that same process gets triggered inside the human body? Well, this theory suggests that this is where the trouble begins, when our own internal ecosystem, our terrain, gets all thrown out of whack.
And this is the key question, isn't it? If the body is supposed to be this healthy, balanced ecosystem, what messes it all up? What turns our internal terrain into a place where disease can actually take root?
According to the source material, these are the main culprits. A diet packed with refined sugar, damage to our cells, pollution, just general poor lifestyle habits, all of these things can create an acidic internal environment. Even something you might not think of, like low stomach acid, can throw off that delicate balance.
In this quote, wow, it is so direct. It points the finger right at sugar, saying it's basically the #1 fuel source for the problematic forms of fungi in the body. In this view, what you eat is literally feeding either health or sickness.
So let's say the terrain becomes acidic, and there's a bunch of fuel like sugar just lying around. What happens next? Well, this brings us to the core mechanism proposed in this theory, what's called the fungal takeover. This table breaks it all down beautifully. See, bacteria get called in to deal with damaged tissue. Then yeast, like Candida, starts to ferment any extra sugar. And then fungi, which, remember, are the final stage of decomposition in nature, are triggered by a really acidic environment, where it's said they can play a role in cellular mutation.
And this brings us to the most crucial and, let's be honest, the most controversial claim in this whole theory. It suggests that certain fungal spores can actually fuse with our own cells, combining their DNA to create something totally new, a hybrid cell that's part human, part fungus. This process is laid out in 3 steps. First, that DNA merge happens. Second, this new hybrid cell actually changes how it gets energy. It switches to a process that doesn't need oxygen, and as a byproduct, it creates lactic acid, which, you guessed it, makes the body even more acidic. And third, and this is the real kicker, because the cell still has human DNA, the immune system gets confused. It doesn't see it as an invader anymore, so it's allowed to just grow and spread unchecked. So when you put all of these pieces together, it's really pointing toward a huge shift in perspective. It suggests that maybe our main focus shouldn't be on the world of germs outside, but on the world that exists inside our own bodies. This slide just lays it out so clearly. On one hand, you have germ theory, the conventional model. It says external microbes are the enemy, and the goal is to kill them. But on the other hand, you have terrain theory,
what we've been exploring today. It argues that the state of our internal environment is the real problem. The goal isn't to kill the germ, it's to fix the terrain so the germ can't cause trouble in the first place. So what's the big takeaway from all this? It's really about a shift in focus. Instead of seeing our bodies as these battlegrounds that are always under attack, this philosophy encourages us to see them more like gardens. And our job isn't to poison all the pests, but to cultivate healthy soil where only good things can grow.
And that leaves us with this final, really provocative question to think about. It completely reframes the whole conversation around health. It suggests that healing is actually our default setting, and that it's up to us to figure out what's getting in the way. It's a pretty powerful thought to end on.